Hey guys, and welcome back. If you are not already subscribed, consider hitting that subscribe button and double check to make sure your bell is on. Many of you have told me that you haven't been receiving notifications. Guys, you have to get in and click the bell and click all notifications on. Then you'll receive everything that I put out, which isn't a whole lot, so you definitely don't want to miss it. So today we're going to be working on the new Holland Baler. If you remember, in years past, it always gives me issues.
So straight off, we have an issue on both sides.
So this year, I'm going to go through and get everything all straightened out, and hopefully this next baling season will be the best one yet. But there's one key issue in this video I forgot to do. Plus, we are also finishing the ceiling on my cabin. It looks fantastic, so you definitely want to check that out. Let's go. Alright, so we have the baler here. We have it opened up. This should be fairly straightforward, but this is not something we've done a lot of. Eric actually replaced this last year. So there's a shaft that goes from here down to here that this screws onto. Now, last year when I went through and did this, I didn't know that my torque wrench was broken. So I set it to 25 pounds of torque, and it took a lot of torquing, and it never really quite sat, and I just was so confused. So Eric took his torque wrench and double checked it. He's like, yeah, you're at 25. I'm like, well, gosh, that's strange. So then we put this one on with his torque wrench, and it only took just a minimal amount of effort. And I'm like, gosh, that's kind of weird. So I put my torque wrench on there, and Eric looked at it and he said, wait a minute, that's my old broken one. What do you mean broken? He's like, that's the one I use as a pry bar. And I'm like, oh, you could have like written something on it with tape. I don't know. I mean, you pick something out of the tool chest, you figure it works. So conversely, it was over tightening everything I had been using it on. And with these, if you over tighten them, you will strip them out. Now, I am replacing the shaft that goes in there. It should have a little bit of wiggle to it, and there's absolutely no wiggle. Let's get rolling. Hey, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed any part of this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. My goal for this video is 1,000 thumbs up. So let's see if we can hit that goal on this video. I know you guys can do it because you guys are awesome. I see. So to get the nut off, we decided to use the grinder or the cutoff wheel. There really wasn't any other way to get it off. But then after I got it off, I realized I didn't need to take the nut off because the whole part slides out through the bottom. I'm not sure how that works exactly because it's supposed to be a tapered fit, but that's what it does. So you don't really need to grind it off like I'm doing here, but you know, if you're worried, you can take it off. Just be careful you don't damage anything. Alright, so the next thing is getting this guy out. First, we're going to take these little tiny shim plates out. These are factory. See how thin those are? Alright, so the hard part on this is trying to figure out which way to drive out the pin. You're going to have to scrape a lot of the old grease away to be able to find it, but it's down here in the notch. And once you find it, you get your punch and start punching. And also when you set this off on a block, be very careful that you don't block it with the knife arm, because the knife arm has a tendency to bend. The knife arm is right back here. because if you're banging on this and your knife arm is using the board as a support, you're gonna inadvertently bend it and then you're gonna have to fix it later. So just, it's right here is where you should support it. All right, so I think if we keep it right here, that should give us enough room to be able to punch it out. Might be able to just, oh, there it goes. Just push it right on through. There you go. Now we need to get this guy off. There it is. So we popped the pin out. The pin actually slides out through the bottom, which took me by surprise. There's no way to slide it out to the top, so just drop it through the bottom and it'll come right out. All right, so you guys are gonna notice that I'm actually sliding the pin, trying to, up through the top. Actually, the best way to remove the pin and the knotter system right here is to take the holder pin out of this right here, drive that out, pop this off. If you leave this nut on along with the gear, it's gonna hold the main pin in place so you can hammer this off very easily. I actually pulled this off reverse ways. I removed this first, then this, then that, which as you can see, made it tricky to get this off the pinion. So again, remove the pin out of the center of this, take this off, and then this whole thing can twist reverse wise back down and out. Although you still might need to use the cutoff wheel to get the knot off the end of your pinion to get your worm gear off, but might be a little bit easier that way. There he is. We're gonna use some super clean on these parts right here. We're gonna get these guys all cleaned up. So this stuff is definitely definitely strong. Okie dokie. So we're gonna go through and we're gonna clean these guys up. Ooh, that's pretty. Look at that. I know you're thinking I shouldn't take all this grease off, but a lot of this isn't supposed to have grease in it, like the worm isn't supposed to have grease in it. But yet it does, because it just kind of got in there. So we're gonna clean all that out. Alright, so today's dilemma is what to do about our extra pasture. So we've got one right here. This was one that we used for our cows when we had cows. When we had two pastures, we rotated with the cows. The horses had two pastures as well. They had a temporary fence one that was in the front of the house, and then they had this one here. This year, however, we decided to go through and grow out their second pasture for hay, and then let them eat this down since we don't have the cows. So I think what I'm gonna do is unlatch the fencing, pull this as tight as I can. I'm gonna pull it back across there and latch it right onto there until I can get a railroad tie in. All right, how are you? Flies are starting to come out, huh? Yes, yes. Such a nice girl. Ooh, slobbery mouth. Yes. All right, so I have the bottom line done. I did it as a test run because I wasn't sure how bad it was gonna come unstrung through the rest of the line. Saying hi. I pulled it tight. Obviously it does still need to be ratcheted back into place, but I mean overall it looks really good. What are you doing? You just want some hugs. Yes, I know you like your hugs. She's such a snuggly horse. I know you guys want to know why I don't ride her yet. Well, I haven't trained her out because she was growing for so long. And you're not supposed to train your horses until they're fully grown. Otherwise, you can mess up the plates in their back. So a lot of people don't know that you can unratchet a ratchet line. So you put your ratchet line underneath, like you're getting ready to tighten it, and then you pull it back. And then once you see it pull out of the groove, you take a screwdriver, and then you're gonna pop this all the way back, and it catches right in this tongue here. And then you pull it out. Now this is gonna be tight. Usually you want gloves. And you're just gonna pull this back. Usually it doesn't come very quickly, so be careful once you get towards the end because it could snap back at you. And just keep pulling.
So this is really heavy gauge wire. This is what hot coat fencing is, otherwise known as coated wire. It is very, very heavy duty. All this black is like a carbon conductive material. And then you can see the black lines in this. It gives a really powerful poke. This stuff, a horse can run into this fence and bounce off of it and keep on going. It's heavy duty and it won't hurt your livestock. So highly recommend.
One more. So we're just stringing it up temporarily because this is going to be permanent eventually. But you're being so patient. Oh, you're so excited. You're like, what are you doing, Mom? All right, last one. Come on, let's go. There you go. Come on, let's go. I don't think they knew before, but they just weren't quite sure. Come on, let's go. Go down there. Go on. Come on. I totally forgot. It's right here, you sillies. Come on. Oh, yeah. That's right. Desi's like, oh, hey. Oh, okay, there it is. All right. Let's see how we're... You have to walk it all the way down here. I'm not walking. You jerk. Get on. Come on. Get. That one is usually the rowdy one. This one is not. So I'm a little surprised. All right, so let's get this put back in. All right, so I smeared a little bit of white lithium grease on him just to give him a little bit of slippage. Right there. All right. About there.
You taking both of them out?
No, I'm just doing one. Alright, so after you get this hammered in all the way, set it exactly where you need it set. Make sure it's in the right spot and lined up okay. Then you're going to twist the worm gear back on, get it as close as you can to your other side. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put the nut on just to the bottom here so that this doesn't slide back off. Then you're going to put this back on. This does not need to be torqued. This does not need to be torqued because we're going to reset our cams. So the disc cams, and they do need to be retimed. And all it does is rotate it. So you can do that and then twist this back into place where you need it. So last night I did an epoxy fill on my pine ceiling boards. Whew. It was a little interesting because again, I don't have the right tape that I need to backfill these. So I kind of made do with a couple different tapes. So we're gonna see which one worked better, and hopefully there's not too much carnage in here. So these I absolutely had to backfill because they would show white plastic through them. You can see that's a knot and it's dark. So the nice thing about the dark stain and the dark knots is that I can use a darker epoxy, and even if it bleeds through a little bit, it's gonna look fairly natural. Here's a short one we did. This is actually painter's tape for auto body. This is not wall painter's tape. This is auto body tape. And it's sticking a little bit better. So some of these boards were already stained. I didn't really think it through very well, and some of them are not. Okay, so you can see that this has a very definitive edge. That's okay. I've covered over most of the hole. If this were on the wall, I'd want it to be a little bit more precise. And actually, this turned out really good. You can see it has very minimal bleeding. You can see it's got more of a textured finish to it based on the glue on this tape. And actually it looks a lot like a knot hole. That looks really good. I'm very impressed with that. And even the color looks pretty good. All right, so let's look at a couple others. This one, as you can see, is using just regular packing tape. It had two sides. And a lot of these had packing tape and some of these had painter's tape. I ran out of the painter's tape, so hence I had to use the packing tape. So this one is an edge crease right here. So I taped it on the back end, and then I taped it coming over in the top edge, and then I poured from the back. And that's why it's called back filling. With back filling, you use just a fraction of what you would normally use. And the idea is that you just get it exactly where you need it, and that's it. And this should be hardened pretty good. Again, there it is. So that actually hardened really well. I'm kind of surprised. Oh, look at that. This one came out perfect. Now the difference is, you can see right here, I didn't stain this because I was thinking that this stain, the oil-based finish, might be affecting the tackability of the tape. So right here you can see that it just had a real clean edge. That looks fantastic. This one, you can see not so much. This one's not gonna be fun to pull off, but we're gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna have a big mess to clean up on this one. The tape decided to start leaking, which made a mess of mess. You can see the mess of mess right there. I don't know if that's gonna be an issue with my flooring, but we'll see. Okay, so you can see this one did not turn out good at all. I was trying desperately at least to get it filled. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to take the grinder, probably the cutoff wheel, I'm gonna guess, and grind this down. This doesn't have to be shiny. It's not a big deal if it's a matte finish, so we're just gonna have to grind that down. Let's look at this guy right here. He looks like he might have had a little bit of spillage. And this one's actually not too bad. I might have to grind this this little edge down and maybe clean that up just a little bit. But once I go through and stain this, I think he'll blend right in. So he actually looks good. We've got a lot more boards to go, so I'm just gonna go through and pull off one more of the blue tape and show you that one. We're gonna do this one. This one's a side fill. These are a lot more tricky. So we'll pull it up. You can see how I followed the stair step edge right here. So you can see it filled it in really nice. This, we didn't need this filled in necessarily, but it's good practice. And then we've got the dark right here and then the slight bleed through. So this has a very, very matte finish. Once we stain this, you will not find this board anywhere on the ceiling. So now I'm gonna get the rest of these boards up on the ceiling and then I'm gonna show them to you and see if you can find the epoxy boards. Got a lot of boards to go, so let's get moving. Okay, so I have some good news. The good news is I got the ceiling done. And even better news is I had a whole stack of boards left over. And this should, based on my calculations, be plenty enough to do the under ceiling right up there. All right, so here is the full view of the ceiling. This is the side again that I was just finishing up. So you can see how both sides come straight all the way down to my wall. And I'm going to explain that in just a minute because I know a lot of people are wondering why on earth when they put the walls in first and not the ceiling in first. But there's a very good reason for that. And it might not be that applicable, but nonetheless, I'll explain it. All right, and then there's the back end. Yep, everything's all covered. You can see way up there on both sides. You can see those areas, the far corners I cannot get a staple gun into or a nail gun of any sort. It is too narrow to work in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some supports in there and I'm going to box off that edge because that's pretty much the only way I'm going to be able to finish off that corner. I don't want it just left open like that. I want it to be finished 100%. I don't suppose you can even find my epoxy knot holes up here anywhere. Put your comment down below if you found them. Even I have a hard time finding them, but I kind of know what to look for. All right, so this one you can see is definitely an epoxy fill. That was one done with a shiny tape, and he's the only knot hole to have just a smattering of blue in it. So I thought it would be kind of cool to have like a scavenger hunt in the cabin for like if someone stays in here. And I'll have like different little oddities in here that they can look for and see if they can find it. And so I deliberately put one knot hole with some blue in it to see if they could find it. There's other little things that I'll do later on. That one you can see was my overfill. And I can always go through with a sander and take down the shine. And maybe I'll do that because it is bothering me just a little bit to have something shiny like that on the ceiling. Anyway, other flaw is obviously the ceiling right here. You can see both boards pretty much meet right on the center of that stud right there. I mean, assuming that that stud is straight. I don't know, honestly. And then if you look up there at the window, you can see maybe, I don't know if the light's reflecting too badly. You can see that it's off by like 1 inch to 2 inches. So yeah, so why did I put the walls in first and then the ceiling? Well, it's because of the way we ran the boards. The floor isn't exactly flat and straight. So that means the boards, even if you cut each board identical, which I really tried to do, and obviously you can see that it still didn't happen. By putting the boards on first and then running the ceiling up to it, it will give us a nice straight edge. Honestly, I think it worked out really well because once I put the trim up there, it's gonna be good. Let me show you what the trim's gonna kind of sort of look like. It's not stained yet, so it'll look a little different. Okay, look at that. Now you can't even tell that any of the boards are not the right size. And that fits perfect up there, just like that. I've got trim for up here, in the corners if I need it, on the baseboards, in the windows, all around the inside of the window casing. I've got every seam has potential trim for it. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you have a great week. Stay safe, keep your chin up, and remember that even if you don't know how to do something, all it takes is just a little bit of learning and the desire to try.